So many people spend their entire lives working and building up their wealth, but very few take the time to actually find out what needs to be done to protect it and to secure it for those future generations that they want to leave this wealth to. Well, that's what we're going to be discussing today on the podcast of Casa, Familia, and Legacy. I am attorney Alina Nunez. I specialize in real estate law, estate planning, and probate. And we'd like to discuss on this podcast what to do to protect your wealth and your assets for future generations. And today I have a wonderful treat. I have with us a guest that specializes in wealth management with over 17 years of experience. And he's going to talk all about how to protect that money, that cash that you're working so hard to live and enjoy and leave for those future generations. So I would like to take this opportunity to introduce with us Alejandro Rodriguez, Wealth Advisor and owner of Zenith Point Wealth Management. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alina.
And Alejandro, talk to us a little bit. Let's get into it. You know, who are you? What drove you to this passion of doing wealth management? Tell us a little bit about your story so that the people can understand where you're coming from and how you're going to help us.
Absolutely. Again, it's a pleasure to be here. So it's an interesting story. I started wealth management about maybe 15 years ago. I got into that through the traditional banking route. So I was very fortunate enough to have my first job at City National Bank of Florida, which is a great institution here in Miami.
We all know them very well.
Definitely. So I'm very pleased to say that I really started my fundamental base of starting a career there, which was incredible. Fortunately, I'm a Miami native, not a transplant from any other part, which we tend to see. So
born and raised as well.
So I definitely like to throw that in there because, you know, I think that's a special, unique trait that we have here in this city for us.
Agree. And we know what our community needs.
Absolutely.
We are rooted in that community. We are Miami. Somos los cubanitos aquí, first generation.
Exactly.
And to all of our Hispanic audience, everyone, you know, we're here to serve. And not only that, but we can relate to a lot of, let's say I don't want to call them superstitions, but
yes,
you know, the things that go on with us Hispanics. They know, you know, not talk about estate planning, porque me voy a morir mañana if I do my documents, or not talk about wealth management because, who needs to know what I have?
That's it.
Nobody, you know, quiero que nadie sepa. You know, why are you in my business learning about my money?
We kind of the goal is to remove that stigma.
Yes.
And so then kind of leading to that path, I was very fortunate. I went to Christopher Columbus High School, another great institution that has definitely set the foundation for me, and the brotherhood has been amazing.
I am a proud wife of an alumni, sister of an alumni, and mother of an alumni who just graduated class of 2025. Adelante. Explorers.
Amazing. You know what I mean? As you can see, so it kind of boils down to, like you were saying, the community. So that community has been entrenched throughout Miami and nationally. So I was very fortunate that I had a good friend of mine that I played soccer with at Columbus. He was at Morgan Stanley at that time. And I'll be honest with you, traditional banking is an amazing route. But I really like the idea that the excitement of the wealth management. And he gave me the opportunity to start at Morgan Stanley. So jump ships to Morgan Stanley, where I really started my wealth management career. I was fortunate enough to spend some valuable years there, learn from industry veterans, especially individuals that were from New York. So they were in that boiler room, kind of like that movie that we saw in the past.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. And then I was fortunate enough to shift to JP Morgan. And, you know, there was something in me that it felt natural to finally say, I want to have my own shop. And it kind of boils down to the connection that we have. We're both entrepreneurs.
Yes.
We decided to say, hey, you know what? We're going to take that risk, that leap of faith, and open up our own shop to really give that white glove service to our clients the way we want to do it. Again, institutions are amazing. I learned so much.
No, but it gave you a good foundation.
But it gave me the foundation necessary
Exactly.
to do what I do the way I want to do it for my client's benefit.
And the same thing was with me. I worked at some great law firms, had wonderful mentor attorneys, but finally there was a day that I said, I want to do this for myself. I want to be able to serve people, help people one-on-one and have that direct connection. So that is wonderful. I mean, clearly you've worked with some wonderful institutions, gotten a lot of good experience under your belt. So that goes to what you can offer
Correct.
everybody in your knowledge of this industry.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So, well, we talked a little bit about why made you do this leap, what motivates you, what is something that people often misunderstand about wealth management or financial planning in your industry?
Absolutely. That's a very interesting question. And I know it's in the title, wealth management. It could be a little bit deceiving at times because I think the misconception is that if you are not wealthy, you cannot do financial planning.
That's exactly that happens to me with the estate planning and setting up a trust. And people think, oh, trust fund babies, or that's for like the Kennedys or the Rockefellers, like old American money. And that's not true. No. It's a stigma that we have to work on desensitizing people to and say, no.
Correct.
You can have, $100,000 or you can have $100 million. That is wealth.
Correct. And it just boils down to the fact that it's a very personalized service. So, again, wealth to you could mean $1 million.
Of course.
Wealth to another person could mean $500,000, right?
Yeah, it's all about perspective.
Correct. So, I think that's the stigma that we really, in the industry, that we're trying to kind of say, hey, it's not just about the wealth management. It's really the financial planning aspect.
Exactly.
So I think it kind of leads into the conversation that we wanted to have here.
So what are some of the first things that you look at when someone contacts you and says, Alejandro, can you help me with this? I'm not rich. No soy rico. I get that all the time with the estate planning. No tengo mucho.
Yep.
But if someone comes to you and says, look, I have a little bit, I've worked hard. What are some of the first things that you look at when working with someone and helping them?
Yeah. We were fortunate enough to collab on a webinar, and I think you already heard me say this, but again, I always like to quote it. Mike Tyson once said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Yep. And it is pretty direct to the point. However, we are so good at planning our vacations, planning our kids' birthday parties. There's so many other things that we plan for, but we don't financially plan for our future.
Which has to be priority.
Exactly.
Right? Like that's important. You don't want to find yourself, at least I don't, and that's as I get higher up in the elevator of life. I just arrived at the 5th floor this year. But this is something you start to really realize, oh my God, I only have X number of years or whatever, and I'm a little bit behind on my planning, or I really need to catch up. And then that snowball becomes harder and harder. I talk to my kids who are teenagers all the time about start now.
Just smart.
Because you can start with smaller contributions, smaller amounts, because they have, longer years.
Longer runway,
Exactly. Am I right? I runway tampoco así.
Yeah. But again, like I said, even sometimes the question is, when's a good time to start, right? And any time is a good time to start. I tell people every day is a day to start. So really, when we go back to the financial planning aspect, like a nice way to put it is when we were younger kids, we usually had that one box that contained our toys, it could have been our blankets, basically anything that we felt comfortable with was in that one box usually. And as life goes on, life matures, you mature, you start gathering things, meaning assets, apartments, businesses. So then guess what? We start getting more boxes.
Yep.
And then there's sometimes we lose control of it, unfortunately, right? So financial planning is a way to encompass everything into one roadmap with your goals, what you want to achieve in life, what you're hoping retirement will look like, and then the legacy planning, which I think is one of the aspects that, I was very fortunate enough to grow up with great parents that taught me from a young age financial responsibility, kind of what you're trying to do with your kids, right?
Yes.
And I think that's what set the foundation for me today as an advisor, one, but two, as a person, realizing that, hey, I have to have everything in order to be able to be successful, to create the goals. So then as we start developing a financial plan, the more concrete answer of what do I ask for, how do we begin this process, is really understanding what your goals are. Because if you don't even know your goals, then what are you planning for, right?
Absolutely.
And then
you have to have a clear plan.
Correct. And I think a lot of times, with everything in life going on, that you think you have a career that's either taking off, or you have kids, or you're finishing school, or you're paying off this. There's so many aspects going on in your life that you tend to say, hey, you know what are my goals, right? So I think really the first time we sit down or we have a conversation is really understanding, what do you want your money to do for you, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the fundamental aspect that we need to begin with financial planning.
What are some of the biggest mistakes you would say that you see people make when it comes to either managing their money or planning for the future?
Yeah.
Or, as I say, lack of planning for the future? But what are some of the biggest mistakes you would say you see?
Yeah, you hit that one on the head right there. Like I said, it kind of, you'll see some recurring themes when I speak, right? Because I think it's really drilling it into the individuals, unfortunately, because, again, we're busy.
Yep.
Life doesn't stop.
Yep.
So starting too late, I think that's one of the I would say one of the biggest mistakes. I think at a young age, like you said, you're either it allows you for more opportunities, one, to be incorrect, and two, to really give you that runway of the compounding growth of interest, right?
Yeah.
I think another big one, especially when it comes to the actual financial management of the assets themselves, is the panic-induced selling during turmoil times in the markets. Trust me, I don't sleep at night as well when those markets are turbulent.
You're getting those calls.
I'm getting those calls.
Alejandro,
Yep.
I'm watching.
Right.
This is taking a dive. What are we doing?
However, I love those calls because it gives me the opportunity to say, hey, here's our financial plan.
Yeah.
We're doing well. We're doing okay. And it's very normal. I don't like to tell people don't worry either, because you're going to worry, and that's a natural instinct. And you don't want to ever take that away from somebody.
Of course.
Because, unfortunately, it is scary. Yeah. So it's really knowing the fact that, hey, we've seen market cycles. We've seen different occurrences, everything from, obviously what we're currently seeing with Iran, COVID.
Oh, yes. The 2007 market crash.
The financial crisis.
Yes.
I mean, we could go on and on.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Great Depression. People don't realize what happened in the Great Depression was,
yeah, it had never happened.
Never happened.
Yeah.
So if you look at history, however, the good news is, I think we use history not to repeat events.
Yeah.
And I think we've done better about that. But again, knowing that we have the financial plan, knowing that we understand the risk tolerance that we're taking on, we should be able to combat that fear. And kind of, that's when I tell people too, when you're flying and the pilot comes on and says, you know what, buckle your seatbelts. We're going to
prepare for landing. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
That's what I like to do. Say, hey, you know what? Put on your seatbelt.
Yeah.
I'm here for you. We're in control. And obviously, if there's circumstances that do require some immediate change, we'll do it.
Yeah.
So that's a nice thing too, being nimble on your feet.
And it also depends on who you're working with in the goal. Because, if it's someone, let's say like even, let's say using my age, for example, is 50. And, I have certain money set aside and I know I'm probably not going to touch that for a good 15 years. Okay, the market right now maybe could tank. I'm not going to panic. Well, I'll try not to.
Right.
Nobody likes to see their investment tank.
No.
But because I know that there's cycles. There's
Yes.
always cycles happening, and it'll go down, it'll come back up, it'll recover.
Yep.
So how do you deal with and do you have clients in all different phases where maybe
Yes.
you have someone that starts off a little earlier, has one type of strategy. Maybe they're a little more have a higher risk tolerance versus someone that maybe started investing or putting away a little bit later, which is fine. At least they're doing it, but they're a little more risk adverse.
Yes.
What advice would you give, or how do you treat those two type of different scenarios or individuals?
Yeah. You know, it goes back to the why I do it. You know, it's really the relationship and understanding that person, what phase in life they're in, right? And then again, we have so many different types of portfolios that we create for the individual. So, you know, we range everything from a conservative portfolio to what we consider a growth orientated. So when we say growth orientated, obviously it's a higher level of risk, but it's not speculative.
Yeah.
We know what type of, I think too, the misconception too is that we're here to just make as much money as possible. Actually, we're trying to reduce as much risk to ensure that we maintain all the proper channels to make sure that we hit all your goals in the long run. So going back to that point, yeah, there's different buckets of money as well that you should have always emergency funds, right? Savings. You know, that opinion differentiates between different people. It could be anywhere from 2 months to 9 months. I think 9 months is a little bit on the extreme side.
Yeah, that's a
yeah. But you know, at least 3 to 4 months that you know that, hey, you know what, I have my secure funds. Then we have that midterm goal where, hey, it's a runway of 3 to 5 years. It allows you to take up the next step on the risk scale. And then your long-term money, like you said, if you know you have 15, 20 years, there's going to be moments, unfortunately, where the market does take a dip. It's a healthy correction most of the time.
Yeah.
But
just look away.
Look
during those moments. Ignore it. Just don't let it do its thing.
You have me on your side. You could call me whenever you want. I'm going to talk you off that ledge, make you feel good for the day. And then if you have to call me the next day and do the same thing, I will still be there, which is great.
And that's a good thing. Not every financial plan, not every wealth plan is the same for every individual, just like with estate planning. You know, people are like, oh, I know I want a trust, or, oh, I know I want this. Well, let's sit down. Let's talk about it. Let's see why maybe, yes, a trust is best for you, but maybe it's not. Because it's not just a matter of your assets, and at least in my industry, it's not a matter of just your assets and your wealth. It's also what are you planning for?
Correct.
Do you have small children? Are you looking for the future? What are your priorities? What do you want to protect, and all of that?
Right.
So definitely having those options and knowing how to deal with those different situations, whether it's someone that's very high risk, go ahead, let's go. I got time. I want to make this grow, or has a low risk tolerance, is a little more conservative. You know, maybe they don't have as long for a correction in the market.
Right.
And being able to deal with both of those situations is wonderful. So we're going to go into a couple of little rapid fire questions, as I like to say. And these are like the most frequently asked questions.
Right.
You know, so this is number one question. Do I really need a financial advisor?
Yes.
Absolutely. That's my response when someone asks if I need an attorney. Yes.
Yes.
But elaborate a little bit on that.
Look, every circumstance is different, but for the most part, it's been proven already. I think there's some articles out there that have basically taken point by point valuing where a financial advisor could make a difference. And it's been proven already that 2 to 5% different in having an advisor versus not having an advisor. And I think really where we see the key aspect is on the emotional level.
Yeah. It's having someone there guide you.
Correct.
And tell you it's going to be okay.
Correct. And the discipline aspect.
Yeah.
So I really take out the emotion out of every decision you make, and it allows us to ensure that what we're doing is what's best for you no matter what, right? So I would say yes.
Absolutely. I agree. So another question, we talked a little bit about it, but I want your opinion on this. Is it too early to start planning? Like, at what age should someone start thinking about planning for their wealth management, their financial future?
Yeah. You know, again, very subjective, but as early as possible, right? The nice thing about a financial plan, it's a living, breathing plan.
Yep.
So it's going to change just like your life is changing, right? So maybe when you start the plan, you're 25 years old. Maybe you're not that salary that you want to be at yet. You have no family. But then 5 years from now, you have a family, you have a higher salary. So, but guess what? You had the fundamental basic of financial planning. And there's no right or wrong answer. But again, as early as possible, I think has been proven to be the long-term success. You know, that kind of like that magical salt or the touch into the recipe to make it better.
I agree. And not only is
sazon.
The sazon. I like a little sazon. And not only is it better, but also, it, like you said, it gives you that discipline.
Yes.
You know, and I remember as a kid, my father would bring these big empty jugs.
Yeah.
And he would have me always put pennies, quarters, and fill up, that jug.
And then roll them up in the little paper.
Exactly.
I don't think these young kids don't know our struggle that we used to do that. And then if you're off by like a penny and then you have to
start again.
Oh my gosh.
And he would. And my goal was always like, okay, seeing that go up and get there. And then once we would get it, we would take it to the bank, roll it up, fill it, and then put it in a savings or whatever, and then do it again and do it again. And it teaches that discipline.
Absolutely.
And I try to instill that in my kids. We all work hard.
Right.
It's not that we're not here to enjoy the fruits of our labor.
Correct.
But you have to set aside a little bit for savings, set aside, for your bills and whatever you have to pay for, and then you can enjoy some. It has to be a balance.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree. Starting early gives a good foundation.
Absolutely.
So next one is, what is more important, saving or investing?
That's interesting. It goes hand in hand, obviously, because if you are investing, you're saving in theoretically. But it's been proven that investing just to keep up with inflation is necessary. I think inflation is an invisible killer, unfortunately. A lot of individuals do not realize the purchasing power of your money is so critical.
So true.
So something that, look, we don't have to go that far back. Even a few years ago, we go to the grocery store shopping now. We see the prices already, and they're not going anywhere.
Have you filled up your gas tank
That's
lately?
absolutely, no, for sure. Obviously the gas.
That's
another topic that we could bring, and we literally, we could have a whole podcast on just that alone. However, so again, you have to save. But in turn, when you do save, it should lead to investing, because I think, again, a common misconception, unfortunately, especially for us Hispanics, Latinos, is that sometimes you just buried under your mattress.
En el
colchón. And I just, unfortunately, it just doesn't make sense.
Of course.
And
it's just sitting there. Even having it sit in a savings account, and
it's rotting away.
I've been a little guilty of that. I'm going to admit. It's not. There's no interest. You're just having your money sitting there.
That's it.
And that's one thing that I did for my son when he turned 16 and started working his little part-time job. I opened up a HISA for him. A high yield savings account. And I would tell him from his paycheck, try to make it a habit to put $50, $100, something in that little savings account, and it's earning interest. So he'll log in. He's like, "Oh, Mom, look, I made like an extra $50." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's $53."
Absolutely.
And at least it's and I go, the more you put in, the more the interest.
Correct.
And really, teach him, because just having
interest.
it sitting there in a bank account, I get it. It's sitting there. It's kind of giving you a little bit of a security.
Yes.
But it's not making any
it's not
money.
Doing anything. Unfortunately,
money's fluid.
Yeah.
It has to, in order for money, to make money, it has to move.
Yep. Unfortunately, I've had a lot of clients come in and say, "Oh, I'm keeping this for a down payment for a property." And guess what? 7 years later,
they haven't bought the property. And they've lost all that interest.
7 years of interest and compounding growth, and it's devastating.
Well, that was my next question. Here, maybe it ties into that. What's one financial mistake that can cost people years if they don't make the right decisions?
It sounds silly, but keeping up with the Joneses.
Oh, that's a good one.
And we see it all the time in Miami, unfortunately.
Yes.
So, again, I have so much love for Miami, but unfortunately, we like all the new shiny stuff. And don't get me wrong, I like a lot of nice things as well. But, when you have a heavy debt burden, not only does it slow down the progress, but it leads you to my other line. I want to help you sleep better at night. And how I do that is by giving you the financial success and the planning. And, you know, heavy debt burdens, you don't sleep at night, unfortunately.
Yeah. So do high earners always build wealth? So do you have to be making a lot of money in order to build wealth?
No. You know, again, I go back to one of my favorite clients. Why? She's a hardworking single mother, 2 kids, has been able to raise them. I mean, morally just phenomenal kids. And then 2, she's been able to save from her paychecks, invest, and she's been one of my longest clients. And to this day, she's followed me from institution to institution. So when you talk about loyalty, that's loyalty.
That's wonderful.
However,
and you're obviously doing something right.
Correct.
In order for her to follow you.
For
and,
sure.
You know
yeah,
what
absolutely.
you're doing.
No, yeah. And but again, I give her a lot of credit because she's been very disciplined. She understands that that's for her future. And again, I mean, not to tell you how much her salary is, but it's not much.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, it doesn't mean that if you're a high, and even vice versa, I know plenty of high earners that have nothing. So, you know,
because they spend it all on the shiny toys.
Yeah. So, and unfortunately,
trying to, living their best life in Miami, keeping up with, the Joneses.
And unfortunately, I always tell people, I mean, it kind of sounds harsh, but sometimes, you know, you need to have that harsh reality. It's not an easy life getting older
at all
and being destitute, meaning not having any amount. And with the cost of healthcare rising, and we're living longer. That's just another factor.
Yes.
I mean, thank gosh, scientifically, we are living longer. So guess what?
We have to plan.
We have to plan for that. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You know, one thing that I was blessed, and same thing, my parents were very middle class, hard workers. My mother was a teacher. My father was an airplane mechanic with Eastern until it no longer existed.
That doesn't exist. Yep.
Then he worked for water and sewer, but they were hard worker, middle class, and they were always like, we don't want to be a financial burden to you guys, to be my brother once we get older. And they wanted to be able to live once they got into their older years and not need anything and not have to depend on anyone.
That's great.
And they were blessed to be able to do that with the steps they took and be able to leave something. And like I told them, don't leave it to me.
Right.
I have health. I have years ahead of me to make my wealth. They left it to my children and my nieces and my nephews and building that legacy for them.
Yep.
And so, you know, again, I tell my kids, you're lucky, you know, you're 13 and 18 years old and you already own real estate.
Yeah, exactly.
I did not have that benefit at your age.
Yep.
But thanks to abuelo and abuela and all of their hard work and coming here and building that legacy.
Amazing.
And because exactly that, they would enjoy their money. It's not that they wouldn't, but
you're not going to be buried with it.
Exactly.
So,
but they did also, took care of everything until they took their last breath. They were able to live in their home in peace and comfort. And none of us had to worry about, I got to take out a second mortgage because I'm raising my kids, paying for their expenses. Now I got to pay for mom and dad's, HHA. And no, it's
a great feeling.
And it is. And that starts with that planning to take that burden off your family and off your kids. So, okay, then the next one we're going to go to. What is one thing that people should stop doing financially?
Listening to TikTokers.
Oh, yes. Ding, 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 ding.
Incredible. No,
I get text messages every so often from clients or people saying, is this TikTok video true? Or, I want to do this because I saw it on TikTok.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and again, I don't knock the hustle.
Yeah.
They are hustling. I'll give you credit for that. However, unfortunately, a lot of their advice is misguided.
Agree.
Or it's for a certain situation. Mm-hmm. And then if you look at it, most of the time when you click on it, they want you to subscribe to something.
Exactly.
So,
I'm not
right now, we're not asking you to subscribe and get something from us.
We're here to give you information and guidance. And don't get me wrong, I am on TikTok.
Oh, so am I.
Miami Lady Lawyer, and in Spanish, tu abogada en Miami. Okay. But I pride myself on just putting out valuable, good information.
Yes.
And I always tell, everybody out there, please don't take it for face value for that it's absolutely true.
Correct.
Speak to a professional who specializes in that.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are certain things that are true. There's other stuff that I was really floored. Well, I usually don't. I am not one of these like keyboard warriors that responds to stuff, but I did have to respond on one TikTok video that was sent that it was a very like sounding the alarms type of thing, which I thought was uncalled for.
Yeah, for sure.
So thank you so much, Alejandro. We're wrapping it up. So I appreciate you being on here. I hope this has been valuable information. Everybody has enjoyed it. We have your information here for the podcast, but if you want to tell us, how can someone get a hold of you, your phone number, email, social medias, what is best to reach you?
Absolutely. So obviously the best method is, I particularly still love being called. So you can call me directly at 305-479-3222. Obviously, I do have a website, which I'm very fortunate, zenithpointwealth.com. And you could always send me an email at alejandro@zenithpointwealth.com as well. But, you know, like everything, this has been amazing. And this is why I value our collaboration, because I think what we do for our clients and for, you know, anybody that just wants to have the knowledge is critical, right?
Yeah.
I think we're a good source for anybody to come to. And again, I'm honored and privileged to be sharing this space with you, because you are incredible.
I appreciate it.
So
Thank you so
it's
much.
been amazing.
Thank you very much.